Okay, so I've heard about heaven being on earth, for example, God restoring his creation. So if that's true, where are the dead people now? Roaming on this earth in a waiting cell until Jesus returns? Floating in the sky like I was taught as a child?
Or option D. Paul, you're the specialist on this.
Oh, yes. Paul says in Philippians that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And that verse and others like it, he talks about this in 2 Corinthians 5 and some other places. The traditional Christian view has always been that where someone is, particularly, we're talking about believers here now, when someone's a believer and dies, they go to be present with God. Now, they're still in a disembodied state. And so Paul almost talks about, in I think it's 2 Corinthians 5, is almost it's not a natural state.
So I stand naked.
Yeah, he says your soul is longing to be clothed again with the body. But you're there. You're with Jesus. You're with God, waiting for that resurrection that's coming in the future. That's been the dominant view. There's been some I probably should mention this because this is actually a point that's growing in certain conversations today where science and theology are being discussed. And in a highly physically kind of centered conversation around science, some people are saying that there isn't evidence that the soul can survive the body. And there's even some evangelical Christians now arguing, therefore, that when you die physically, your soul, in a sense, dies with your body. But that's okay, because at the end of time, when God resurrects you, he resurrects your whole soul-body unit. And so the next thing you know is you're alive again. And that is a view that's certainly a minority view, but it's one that's being increasingly entertained as the science-theology dialogue moves along. For the very reasons about the near-death experiences we talked about earlier, the corroborative type, Greg and I don't find that very plausible. We think there is good evidence that the soul can survive bodily death.
I have a few verses that are really hard to get around if you think that we just...
First,
the one you just mentioned, 2 Corinthians 5.
2 Corinthians 5, Philippians is 1:21. And
The other thing I'd just say about this question is that it's important to, for followers of Jesus at least, to acknowledge what we don't know, which is almost everything, when it comes to this question. And the reason why that's important is because there is a spiritual world. We are in this war zone, really. Human beings aren't the only conscious, sentient beings in the creation. There are angelic beings, some good, some bad, and there's a spirit world out there, and we're not told much about that, which means we got to be very careful about dabbling in that. And you find in the New Testament some real warnings about divination and mediumship, Old Testament and New Testament, about not entertaining angels and things like that. You're dealing with trouble there, and the reason why I bring it up is because I know that even in Christian circles, conservative Christian circles, there's been a lot more curiosity about those kind of things. And kind of making that compatible because, hey, well, the spirits might still be around. Can we talk to them? And I really caution against that. You're dialing up a phone number and you don't know who's on the other line. And it may be demonic, and they can be very crafty and deceptive. And I would just stick with what you know and live out the faith, the kingdom of God.